Hello and welcome to Brony Music History Episode 8. On today's show, we have another artist celebrating a slew of their tracks turning 10 this month. Emerging with a burst of energy in the autumn of 2011, their quickfire verses quickly created some anthems that still destroy dance floors to this day, including September, Beyond Her Tomb, Sister Hate, and Nightmare Night. They performed live at Bronypalooza, EQLA, Ponystock, at Everfree Northwest, Fiesta Equestria, Buck, and more. But it definitely wasn't a ride without bumps, and in their own words, I know what it's like to be loathed and what it's like to be loved. For today's episode, episode 7 of Brony Music History, please welcome MicTheMicrophone.
Howdy, how's it going?
Yeah, it's 4 a.m. and we are feeling the 4 a.m. vibes, but I'm so keen to get this out of the way, and I've got so much energy now, just, very excited. How are you going on this fine morning?
Oh, you know what? I'm doing all right. Been up all night. Been up since like 1 a.m. just working on stuff, getting stuff ready for the day. It's gonna be a long one, but you know what? I'm excited for it.
Hell yeah. All right, let's wind the clock back to just before Pony started. Were you a musician before you started watching the show?
Kind of, but not really. My mother did a whole bunch of stage performance stuff, a lot of musicals, and so because of that, I had a lot of like musical inclination. I also attempted doing band, but really just made friends with the band kids more than anything, as opposed to becoming proficient in a musician or in an instrument. So for me, I really just stuck to vocals and fucking around, making half-assed parodies that never really did anything. So no, I just kind of was, the nerdy guy who played video games.
Yeah, mad. So that means that I guess you went into the fandom without any musical knowledge.
I wouldn't say without any.
But like not. It's not like
I
you're an
guess better
established
stated,
producer
without any musical intent.
Yeah. So Sweet Knight asks, what got you into making music? And also, how did you learn not to inhale during recording songs?
Oh my god. So the breathing techniques I had to learn were a pain in the ass, and a lot of it was just repetitive practice. I would do the same verses over and over until I identified points where I actually could breathe in, but I would do it so fast that you wouldn't be able to tell. And in most of my recordings, I would actually cut out that because no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear you gasping for air.
So it's all a ruse.
It's all just a big lie.
Oh.
No, but I also had to learn how to do that stuff live. So it was about identifying those key points of inhalation and also knowing which words you could get away with not saying in the middle of a verse to substitute a breath.
There we go. And
but as for getting into music, that was I found I Bring to Lulz on YouTube one day, and I loved his stuff. I thought it was super charming, and I was super new to a lot of content creation back then. I hadn't really dabbled in much. So to me, that was just fucking incredible. Dude was a superstar in my eyes. So I ended up kind of redlining one of his verses one day, and he's like, "This is super good. You should just do this yourself." And I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm not really confident in that." And he was like, "No, just fucking do it." And I believe Sonic Rhyme Boom was the result of that.
Yeah. And so did you discover Pony through I Bring to Lulz, or did you find it through another way?
No, at the time, actually, I had just moved back in with my parents' house. I was 19 at the time, and I was going through some shit. I had just dropped out of college. I had just lost my job because they were downsizing, and I really didn't have a whole lot of direction because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. And so after moving back, I kind of just vegged to myself for a little bit. I played games with some friends, and then one of them was just like, "Hey, if you're looking to kill time, the new My Little Pony is unironically good." And I'm like, "My Little Pony? Really?" And they're like, "It's unironically good. If you think it's bad, you can come shit talk me later." And I didn't have a computer or anything at the time, so I just picked up my phone. I went to some seedy-ass website that had the whole first season. And this was like on the precipice of season 2 dropping. So I just sat there, and on my tiny old ass T-Mobile phone, I just watched the entirety of season 1. And by the second episode, I was like, "Shut the fuck up! This is really good."
So the friend was vindicated in the decision to introduce you.
Super vindicated. I came back in shame, and they were like, "So how was it?" And I'm like, "It was good."
Oh dear. And so you started watching the show and then discovered fandom music pretty soon after that. Because
actually,
yeah.
I started watching the show, finally got a computer, joined a Steam group that actually focused on it. And I used to do movie watching in there for a long time with people. And then people started posting YouTube videos to fan-created content, and that's how I ended up finding lulz.
Yeah, mad. And from that start point, it didn't take very long for the MicTheMicrophone Pony project to start. And boy, what a start it was in the October of 2011, and a little bit earlier as well. Pumpkin Breadcat asks, why did you choose the name you have for your pony?
Oh, so this is actually super silly. At the time, I had re-enrolled in community college, and I was taking a Believe in American History class with my buddy Kyle, and I was writing down logos and shit on a piece of paper, and I was like, I really want to do something with microphones, and I'm looking it over, and I drew the logo that, kind of like a little prototype of the logo that I would end up using as the full cutie mark in my eventual full logo. And I showed it to my buddy Kyle, who was sitting next to me. I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, I like it. And I'm like, what do you think of the name MicTheMicrophone? And he's like, it sounds Disney. We got a copyright on that. And I looked it up, and I was like, no, they don't. They have microphone mic. I'm good to go.
Oh, wow. It's
So
just getting through on a technicality.
Yeah, hey, listen. And I spelled it M-I-C, not M-I-K-E. So I ended up just going with that because I thought it sounded clever.
Yep.
And the rest is just kind of history. It's stuck.
Yeah, and I think there's few people in the fandom that wouldn't recognize that name now, regardless of how silly it started off. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that's the origin of the name. Yeah. So you mentioned Sonic Rhyme Boom, which was that rapping over an established track?
Oh yeah, no. I originally wanted to do nothing but parody tracks because I loved Bo Burnham and Brental Floss and people like that. I loved people who did funny stuff, be it, parody of pre-established content or original stuff. And I was just so fascinated with it. I was like, I want to make people laugh like that. So originally I had done kind of parody rap as sort of this seems like a fun sort of thing to do. And I did that over Busta Rhymes' Break Yo Neck. And that was a really fun track to do. And that kind of influenced me going forward, and I was gonna stick with nothing but parody tracks as I worked with lulz. He did stuff like Baby Got Flank, and again, I was really inspired by that. And then I forgot when it was. I think it was around the time of Beyond Her Tomb. Someone was like, have you ever considered doing like original stuff? And I was like, no, not really. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, okay. And so when you say original, do you mean like original verses, or like actually produce your own music?
Just making original verses, original content. I mean, vocalist work is still music. I'm singing, I'm rapping, I'm conceptualizing melodies. For what I lack in being able to play an instrument or musical theory, I make up for by having a decent ear and a decent voice. So, what I bring to the table is still incredibly valuable. And so I just kind of decided, I'm going to try throwing my hat into the ring and doing something a little bit more original. And I started doing stuff like One Trick Pony as part of the Toast Beards that were really popular at the time. I ended up doing Sister Hate with Tombstone, Beyond Her Tomb. I did Nightmare Night. Nightmare Night was so much fun. I wrote that track in like 25, 30 minutes. We had a whole 2 episodes. No joke, we had a whole 2 episodes of content. I mean, I did what I could with my limited skills at the time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we'll get to Nightmare Night a bit later. But so you've brought up Beyond Her Tomb, which is you rapping over the Tombstone remix of Beyond Her Garden. Had you been talking to Tomb and Glaze at this point? And did you ask for permission, or did you just go for it?
Oh, it was so much more lax than that. You have to understand that back then we were all just a bunch of idiot kids making music in our fucking parents' houses, or in our own little apartments and shit. So for us, it was just more of a, yo, I made this sick track. Yo, that's cool. Hey, would you put vocals on this shit? I'll try. and that's really all it was. Fucking Nightmare Night. Wooden Toaster was like, hey man, do you want to try to throw some vocals on this? I'm like, fuck yeah, I would. And so they released the instrumental version and the one with my vocals. Tomb did the same with Beyond Her Garden, and he's like, I just think rap vocals would go sick over this. And I was like, oh fuck, this would be cool.
Yeah.
So I started writing, and after that, that's just how we worked together for, I want to say, like, the next 2-3 years.
Yeah. And did you we're talking about being silly little kids in your parents' basements. How old were you in the summer of 2011, or the fall of 2011 when you started?
I was 19, about to turn 20.
Nice.
I was a wee bab. I was in my old childhood bedroom at the house that I had grown up in since 2001, and I had set up my computer on top of a clothing dresser. Was sitting on a fucking footrest block for a chair. Had a Blue Yeti microphone that if I kicked my desk too hard, it would do that nice little. We all know the sound. Fucking awful noise that thing makes. Just from there, it was just, me waiting around in the darkness, seeing what worked, what didn't, and just kind of doing my best.
Yeah, mad. All right, let's play Beyond Her Tomb by MicTheMicrophone, featuring the Living Tombstone and Glaze.
You try your best, but it's not quite there.
We got Mike on the mic, we wreck the scene. Got Lulz back in the track war machine, causing havoc and chaos. You come to try and stop it when you see just who you're messing with. These boys are repping 2010. We got Glaze on the track to get this party started. The Living True Story mix, and he's gonna put his heart in to what he's making. So step back, we about to share.
You try your best, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, Carrot Top, go beyond the garden and be the queen you know that you're destined to be. You gotta follow your heart, now that's a start to be serene and glowing and showing the world you're some pony that people should know it. You gotta beat the heat, these haters coming hard, ready to break down your armies and go shatter your walls. But inside you're not a typical girl. You're gonna show us, let your story unfurl.
You try your best, but it's not quite there. You kick a hoof and say it's just not fair. A simple man living simple dreams, a rumor that's not quite as it seems.
You're gonna rattle, shake, and bring the heat. You show the haters when you sweep them right off their feet. You're gonna cast out your light, cover them in your glow. The world is now your garden, give them love to grow. Your mother nature, the hate you nailed you on the cross. It's all lost to me, the cost to be a beacon in the dark. You see, is your life, but you know inside, though there you're blind. They're never ever gonna manage to put out your light. So Carrot Top, spread your wings and take to the sky. You're gonna rise in time to hurt you, but you never die. Like a phoenix rise again when they strike you down. You change the ground, turn all the world's upside down. The second coming has begun, the deed is done. The haters looking at you shaking cause they're all about to run. But then you hold out your hook and show them gentle smiles. It's worthwhile, they feel the hatred, leave you banished the vile.
You try your best, but it's not quite there. You kick a hoof and say it's just not fair. A simple man living simple dreams, a rumor that's not quite as it seems.
6 months have passed and every pony knows your name. They know that name and they all know the claims about her. Carrot Top ain't a normal filly at all. She's a star in the sky and it's why the other pony's gonna try to drag her down. But you know you gotta try and go to stand your ground, cause if you don't, the world will crumble right at your feet. Now go beyond your garden, girl, and try to beat the heat.
Go beyond this, you're a elixir, time to fall us. Keep your friends close, that would drive you to the cosmos and describe you. Carrot, go beyond this, you're a elixir, time to fall us. Keep your friends close, that would drive you to the cosmos and describe you. Brighter than tonight's sunset, can't mistake your silhouette. Not a sound, no voice nearby, your main illuminates this gloomy sky.
The other ponies come and try to take your butcher. Your friends are by your side, they are what make you. So you stand up tall and you just give in. You never think about yourself, you're selfless woman within. And then they tie you up and they set you ablaze through smoke and haze. You only see the brighter days are coming. So even though you're gone, you're still in their hearts. And they'll always have a piece of you, you left them your garden.
Go beyond this, you're a elixir, time to fall us. Keep your friends close, that would drive you to the cosmos and describe you. Carrot, go beyond this, you're a elixir, time to fall us. Keep your friends close, that would drive you to the cosmos and describe you.
Oh, my. That bring back some memories?
A lot, actually. I remember exactly where I was sitting when I wrote all of that. I remember staring at my computer monitor, the copy of Adobe Audition 1.0 that I had illegally pirated to record it on. The whole nine.
Oh, very good, very good. And yeah. So that was that your first. Well, I guess what was the reception like when you released that track? How did people respond?
Overwhelmingly positive, to my recollection. I mean, there were a bunch of people who were like, "Oh, I prefer the instrumental," which that's always going to happen. I personally prefer a lot of tracks as just an instrumental as well. But it was one of those things where I had never experienced any sort of success in that field before. Previously, I had done like talent shows at school and got booed off stage at one point. That was not a fun time. And so, yeah, no, that changes a person. But after I posted that, the amount of positive reception that I got from it was absolutely overwhelming. I had a whole bunch of people on random forums like, "Yo, this guy's actually really good. This track bumps." I was like, "Wow, what? People like my stuff?"
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was surreal. It was really surreal.
Was that a reaction you were sort of expecting to get? Like,
Hell no.
yeah, right.
Hell no. I mean, again, I had never up to that point really experienced success with music in any way, shape, or form. And, you have friends and family being like, "Oh, you have such a good voice." And, you take that with a grain of salt, right? And then you have mean, very, very unfiltered high school students saying anything they can to bring you down, and as a high school student with very low self-esteem, you take that to heart. So, for me, I just kind of thrown my hat into the ring and was like, "Oh, if it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, whatever." I had fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so you were mentioning earlier that you started joining Toastbeards and a lot of those early fandom like competitions and that sort of thing. Did the reception and the community like encourage you to like keep making music?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not only did I get a positive reception from the community at large, which was a massive self-esteem booster that helped me to continue doing it, I also had a lot of fun with, new friends that I had made and, had made very, very strong connections with these people that to this day have, withstood the test of time. I still keep in touch with Silva. I still keep in touch with Tomb. Still keep in touch with Jessa. Still keep in touch with Lav. And, these were people that I had so much fun working with that I was like, yeah, who gives two shits if it's good or not? I'm having fun with it.
Very good, very good. Yeah, so Beyond Her Tomb was released on October 26, 2011, which on the date of recording is 12 days away from turning 10. Yeah, that absolutely mind-boggling. And when this is released, it'll possibly be even closer. So in that October period of 2011, you did Beyond Her Tomb, you did Nightmare Night. In the November afterwards, you did I think September and either Sister Hate or one of the other Tombstone ones. What, like, did you just get like the magic Brony music juice that month? And
straight up, I didn't think. Like a lot of these early tracks, we just threw stuff to paper, There wasn't any sort of critical thought put in. You were just like, "Does that sound all right? Yeah, no, it sounds fun. Let's go with it." So, there wasn't as much critical thought put into a lot of the lyric work. And so I was just able to be like, "Does it rhyme? Yeah. Does it rhyme? Yeah. Does it rhyme? Yeah." And so, in a lot of that early work, there's a lot of simplistic rhyming. There's a lot of very simple rhyming patterns. There's nothing too adventurous in terms of like time signatures and rhythm. So, it's something that we were just having fun with it. So, if it worked, if it felt good, then, go with it, throw it to paper. And as time went on, again, we put more critical thought to the work, myself especially with my lyric work, and because I wanted stuff to be good,
Yeah, exactly. Well, so on that, so I guess you were, throwing together quite amateurish production. Why do you think it spoke to so many people, those early works?
I feel like because a lot of what I put into it was just me saying I really am just some fucking nobody idiot trying their best out here, and I feel like a lot of people really resonate with that. And to this day, I really don't feel like I've left that mentality. I'm still just the same idiot trying to do some different stuff, and seeing what works and what doesn't. None of that ever really changes. You never stop figuring stuff out. And so I feel like for a lot of folks, it, especially the energy and the, I guess, optimism and hope that I put into a lot of my early work, that spoke to people. It really did tell a lot of people, holy shit, yeah, I can do it. And I do believe that really did, help to uplift a lot of people. And I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard Beyond Her Tomb until I was actually just researching for the show. I as a sort of late fandom Brony, wasn't actually super familiar with your work at all. And yeah, I definitely feel in a lot of your tracks that sort of sense of like optimism and youthfulness, like, like fucking hell, you can do it.
Yeah,
coming through. And I guess as someone who, I guess, what was like quite a bit younger, when as many of us were, I can see why a lot of people would be attracted to that message, where so many of us are in the process of forging our identity when we find the pony fandom and when we find the show itself. And I think songs that speak to that sort of youthful energy are always going to do well, because that just really speaks to us as people. All right, let's talk Nightmare Night. Originally released on Halloween of 2011, I think. Halloween, October 31st is Halloween,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't do Halloween in Australia, so it's always funny watching from afar as everyone like goes, Halloween all month.
I mean, look, man, it's a fun time. It's an excuse to be spooky. There's a lot of classic movies. Who doesn't love a pumpkin? Come on.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to get one out this year. So that is like, so that song is so intimately tied to the text of My Little Pony and the show itself. The Nightmare Night episode is season 1, right? So you'd seen that before you started making music?
It was season 2, actually.
Oh, it was. Okay. Yeah. So that means that episode would have come out, and you would have made that song pretty quickly.
Almost immediately, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
It dropped. The Toast Beard came out, and everyone was like, make a Nightmare Night themed song. And we were like, let's do it.
And what a song it was. Do you remember anything about sort of what was inspiring you in the with that track? Other than just the Nightmare Night in general.
I really took a lot of inspiration from like the narrator and like Thriller and stuff like that. Vincent Van Price is, Vincent's just fucking amazing at that shit. So I wanted to do something in the same kind of vein, but I wanted it to be more gritty. At the time, I was super into artists like Hobson and whatnot. So, that kind of horrorcore rap was super big on my mind. But I wanted to do something, a little bit more friendly. One of the things that I strove to do in my songs is I tried not to swear. Because, I feel like swearing has its place, but, it's something that at times can be a super huge crutch. So to propel myself forward, I would always be like, just don't swear, just don't do it. So, while writing that, it was really just, I wanted to make something kind of fitting to Halloween. I was really in the spirit that time of year. Went out, bought a pumpkin same day, carved it, watched the track go up, watched people loving it. I blasted it myself in my fucking car, showed it to everybody. I was like, look at this song I'm a part of.
Very cool. My neighbors listen to good music because I'm playing it for them very loud.
That's how I feel sometimes when I'm streaming. I'm like, y'all have nothing to complain about. Nothing but good sounds coming out of this house.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, let's play Nightmare Night by Glaze. By Wooden Toaster, featuring MicTheMicrophone.
walking up on the scene. She has been stuck on the move, but that's no reason to fret. She's not a nightmare no more, so buckle down and get set. She's coming gracing the subject, she ain't leaving no choice. She's gonna blow you all back with her equestrian voice. So cover all of your fears and stow away all your fright. The Lunar Princess is back to bring the nightness tonight.
Living in the past, so you won't last without the proper care. The royal farewell and an animate spell, you won't have long to prepare.
Little fillies, this is Nightmare Night. Your ruler Nightmare Moon is back to come and fill you with pride. So hurry, now get your goodies and fill up all your bags. And go and leave a candy offering for that big ol' hag. You're running and pray above that she's not coming back to come and take away your soul and eat you up for a snack. So run away and go hide, just keep your head out of sight. The darkness is rising again, cause this is Nightmare Night.
You're living in the past, so you won't last without the proper care. The royal farewell and an animate spell, you won't have long to prepare.
My. I just checked the view count for that. That track has 8.7 million views.
Nice.
Which I'm fairly confident that puts it in the top 10 for any Brony music view count. But yeah, I'd have to fact check that later. But I'm fairly confident that that puts it in top 10. And it's a strange song as well because I've never heard it at a convention. It is so incredibly popular.
Well,
I played it.
You've never heard it at a convention because you've never heard it performed. See, in the early convention days, from 2011 to I would say 2013, 2014, wherever Glaze would perform, that song would be played. And if I wasn't performing it myself, then somebody else was playing an homage to it. I mean, just when Glaze was heavily prominent in Brony music, it was everywhere. And part of the reason you don't hear it now is because, nobody's performing it. The artists of the track are, have moved on to bigger, better things. And because of that, people either A, don't play it as frequently, or B, you just don't hear it because it's not performed.
Yeah, exactly. And I played it on my classic sets. If I'm doing a classic set, we will be playing at some point some sort of Wooden Toaster song, and quite often it is Nightmare Night because if you're playing a classic, you got to play that. But yeah. So on the topic of conventions, you performed your first con at Bronypalooza 2012, and then went on to play a lot of conventions after that. What was it like at the very first Bronypalooza?
Nightmarish. It was. It was some shit. Let me just say that. I'm just gonna take the filter off. It was some fucking shit. We get there and there is already fallout with people who are supposed to be running the show, people arguing over sets and shit like that. There are some musicians whose names elude me at this point in time who are upset about their set length and are just throwing the biggest fucking tantrums. And so after all is said and done, I kind of step up all right, you know what? We got to get shit done. I'm just going to take the reins of this and we're just going to go. So we get everybody through sound check. We don't have an MC, so I'm like, fuck it, I'll MC myself. And everyone's like, what about your performance? I'm like, I'll just fucking go last. My voice is going to be destroyed. Who gives a shit? And the the entire show was really, really rough. Everybody was pretty much performing for the first time. Tomb did his set off an iPad with like some old ass fucking virtual DJ shit on it. I ran my stuff off of a phone, like all my backtracks off of a phone plugged into a 3.5mm jack. By the time I got to my set, my poor voice was shredded. There was one point where somebody actually knocked a high quality laser projector off its stand and into the crowd. And Dusty Cat, being the absolute quick reaction timed bastard that he is, grabs it, seals the shit shut. And the only person who gets burns is him as the lasers just sear into his skin. So, yeah, I mean... And not only that, but we had shit like the I don't know if it was that year or the following year, but like
no, that was that year.
That was that year. Yeah, we had people throwing glow sticks up into the air. They got caught in the lights, and then there was fucking raining fired plastic down onto the crowd. Somebody blew out a fucking subwoofer, if I recall correctly. I think that was Lav. Actually, yeah, it was Lav. Oh God, Lav blew out a subwoofer just before I went on. Lav's set was so bass heavy, and her shit bumped so hard that she blew out a subwoofer, and I was like, that's a good fucking set right there. So I mean, my set was a goddamn disaster. I mean, I easily regard it as my worst set of all time, and it was my first set, so that was a huge strike to my ego. And every performance going forward, I rehearsed so rigorously. I did everything in my power to make sure I would not have a repeat performance of that. And to that end, I would usually perform early on and then stick to emceeing the rest of the concert. I would shorten my sets to accommodate other people's sets so that they could have, a full running 35, 40-minute set, whatever they needed. And I would usually be like, okay, 25 minutes is fine.
Yeah. And I guess, did the reception of that sort of light a fire under you to be like, I've got to fucking improve, and next time I'm going to do better?
You know what's hilarious? Well, not hilarious, but what's funny is that people actually received my set pretty well. A lot of people there liked it for what it was. And while I did appreciate that, I was very self-critical, and I still am about it. I look back at it, and again, it is very much, in my opinion, my worst performance ever. And I use that as kind of the standard of, you don't want to be back to that.
Yep.
So, before you do anything, make sure you have your ducks in a row.
I think it's one of the gifts and the curses of the Brony fandom is that for musicians as well, it's so incredibly forgiving. Like people can see that if you're putting your heart and your soul into it, they will respond well. Because at the end of the day, most Bronies aren't really music aficionados. They're there to have a good time and hear some of their favorite tracks, and all the technical stuff that you as a musician notice. The average punter and dribbler isn't going to fucking notice, because it's all technical wah shit. Like for better, and also to some extent to worse. But yeah, it's always good, I think, to have that self-critical eye, because you don't often get the critical feedback. So yeah, after that, you went on to perform at more conventions. So I'm assuming the taste of time on stage pushed you to be like, yeah, I really want to do this more.
Yeah, I mean, I had the time of my life. You really can't quantify what it's like to hear literally thousands of people either singing along with your music or chanting your name. And I mean, it is a type of electricity that just courses through your body that I can't even begin to describe. I mean, I crowd surfed at that convention. That was the high. That was the only time in my life I crowd surfed and full stop. I was clenching my butt cheeks and had my palms all my pockets, because I was like, somebody's gonna pickpocket me. My wallet is right there, and somebody's just gonna. Nobody did, because I had my hands on my ass. But I'm just saying, it could have happened. But I mean, it was indescribable. And for all the failures and the personal criticism I gave myself, I had the time of my life, and it only made me want to do more, do better. That definitely was not a situation where I looked at that and was like, well, this is it for me. I was like, no, it's just a start.
Yeah. And how did you see cons change over the years, especially like the concerts and the sort of approach they had towards musicians?
One of the big things is that in the early stages, of BronyCon, it was all out of pocket for the musicians. At that point, there was no real contract system put into place that would ensure that musicians would get paid in any fashion. Actually, it was kind of a weird and very toxic consensus at the time that most of us should be doing this for the love of the music, which, you know, several of us carried with us for a long time, myself included, until, you know, people like Alex S., people like Jessa really started to be like, no, this is our job, guys. We should be getting paid for this. And, you know, conventions definitely took on more of a, I guess, self-aware point of view when it came to music shows, because previously we were all just performing to be like, yo, this is going to be fun for us. You know, we're all benefiting, the con's benefiting. But when we realized that, you know, these shows were a substantial draw for the conventions, and we were investing a lot of time, emotion, and energy into these shows, we also were like, well, we should be compensated for our time, because we, like, you know, we go home to mediocre paying jobs. We are taking entire weekends off to perform for people. You know, we should be compensated for this kind of stuff. So conventions definitely started to go from being, you know, friendly music performances to being a little bit more structured and professional. But behind the scenes, it was just the same old gaggle of idiots, you know, same old bunch of people just fucking around making music. And so, you know, what really happened is we went from people who had no experience with this sort of thing to being seasoned con veterans. You know, we were performing veterans at these sort of things. We knew the ropes, we knew what we were worth, and we knew what we had to do as part of our performance stipend, you know? So the shows became bigger, they became better, they became more extravagant. You know, we started asking for more so that we could put on better shows. You know, we went from just having people on stage to having, you know, full technical crews doing, you know, multiple mic checks, doing sound checks for everybody, making sure that we had custom lighting for our performances, which was surreal in some cases. And so, you know, it definitely went from being, you know, an amateurish gaggle of indie performers to being sort of an established expectation per convention. You know, everybody was like, well, who's going to be a part of the music show? And the music shows became a huge draw for every convention, all the way up to like 2013, 2014, when a lot of people started dialing it back a lot, myself included.
Yeah, and oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Not gonna sneeze. All right.
That's always a fun feeling.
Just 5 a.m. things. Okay. Bolt the Super Pony asked, do you have any funny convention stories? And so Odyssey told us the story of Unicon last week. So maybe.
Oh, do you already know about the pizza boxes?
Oh no, we haven't heard about the pizza boxes.
Okay, super not safe for work. But so the first story.
That's fine. This show is already. We're sworn enough to get this tags explicit. So let's fucking go.
Oh man. All right. So this is in the aftermath of Unicon, that whole shambling mess of shit. So we all go up to my suite afterwards, right? And this is like everybody, and we're just like, let's get fucked up. So I mean, everybody's just drinking. We're passing champagne around. You know, we took a shitty situation and we managed to salvage it. It was. You know, time to decompress. So we have Brayburn and Razga up in our room at the time. And as we're all sitting there, somebody's like, who can draw the best horse dick? And Brayburn and Razga's hands both shoot up. And we have 2 empty pizza boxes and we have a plethora of Sharpies. So we're like, all right, you have 60 seconds, go. And they both just start flurrying with these Sharpies, drawing the most detailed horse penis you've ever seen in your life. And so when they're done, the whole room gets a view of these glorious penises, and we're judging them. Brayburn would be chosen as the winner for realism's sake, and because he drew a dribble of Pre, that got him bonus points. And so we now had these stunning cock portraits on pizza boxes, and so party winds down to a close. Everybody goes their separate ways. I wake up the next morning with a killer hangover, and I see on the table these lovely horse cocks on pizza boxes. And so I'm like, well, I hate this fucking hotel. I am never coming back here. So what can we do with these? And so my friend Jay's like, I know what we can do. And we have a low-hanging chandelier in the room. So she takes them, mounts them both in the chandelier so they are front-facing the door for when the cleaning people come in. We left $20 with a welcome from Equestria postcard there. And on the back wrote, sorry for the mess, lo sientos. And then walked out the door. Now the other story, this one I'm very fond of. This was 2014 BronyCon, if I remember correctly, and we were all up in my room. It was kind of the aftermath of the music show, and we had like Mario Party on the TV. Odyssey was drunk and just sharking the fuck out of everybody. I mean, Jessa is a Mario Party fiend. She's so fucking good, it's ridiculous. So, you know, everybody's in the bedroom, and we have now gotten 2 noise complaints because everybody's voices just keep rising and rising. Everybody's trying to talk over each other.
That is a classic convention mood.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we've gotten 2 noise complaints, and on the second noise complaint, somebody tries to get everybody's attention in the room, and I am just fucked up at this point. I mean, it's been a long con. I had a great performance, and I'm like, I'm finally winding down. And so this person screams, "Hey now!" And me being the drunk shit I am, I just go, "You're an all-star. Get your game on, go play." And then the whole room very slowly and very lowly just, "Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid." And we go through the whole verse. And then finally when we go to "Only shooting stars break the mold," we all go to cheer, but I go, "Shh." And so everyone's like, "Yeah."
And I think
So that was
that's such a good summary of the convention experience, because like,
yeah.
oh my god, so much of it is just the shit talking and the bullshit and the shenanigans after the actual concert itself. So many times it's like just doing shit with your friends is way better than actually just being on stage. Fucking.
And man, for the musicians too, it was such a it was such a hard mixed bag of chips for every single convention, because on the one hand, yeah, you get to go to these amazing cons, you're usually getting flown out there, your performance fees taken care of, your hotel's taken care of, and that's awesome. But for, you know, the first couple of days, you have obligations. You have panels to attend. You have meet and greets. You know, you have to save your voice. You can't really go around talking to as many people as you want or being as bombastic as you want to be because you have a performance. And I mean, poor Jessa, she would get the worst of it because, you know, dude, she goes harder than anyone. And her poor voice, oh my God. She would have to spend days at a time not talking. And we would just be like, oh my God, I can't imagine. Of course, come time for her performance, she would fucking kill it. But, you know, it was one of these things where we didn't really get to really let loose and enjoy the con until after the performance. And, you know, for a lot of us, that Saturday evening, that was the time where we could be like, freedom at last. I can do what I want to do. Give me as many beers as my body can handle without dying.
Yep. Oh, that is a very big mood. Yeah, I fully understand that, especially, I don't know, as someone who spends like all day before their set throwing up. Yeah, the Saturday night, it's time to fucking let loose.
Oh yeah, no, I get the nervous peas right before I go on stage, so I'm like ducking into the bathroom 3-4 times an hour, just like I gotta pee.
Yeah. A question that I haven't asked very often, but should ask more. Do you have any favorite cons to play at? And also, what made a con good to play at as a musician?
You know, I think one of my favorite ones to perform at was definitely BronyCon, and mostly just because fully indoor. I mean, super air conditioned, can't beat that. Not only that, but the area was really nice. I also really liked MLP MSP. MLP MSP treated their performers right. Final Draft went above and beyond to make sure that everybody was taken care of at that convention. And, you know, whatever your opinion was of the Everfree network, they were a bunch of people who were professional, who were qualified, and who made sure that they got shit taken care of. And so MLP MSP treated everybody from its selling artists to its musicians to its fandom VAs like absolute royalty. And BronyCon was just a convention that, you know, because of how long it had been around, set the standards, you know, both in terms of size, professionalism, and so on and so forth. And so you never felt at a BronyCon, at least for a long time, and at MLP MSP for the several years that I went, you never felt like you weren't getting your money's worth or you weren't treated right.
Yeah, okay, and I think there's a good lesson in that for Brony music and also for furry music, but we won't go there. And I think these days I think the fandom has learnt its lessons about how to treat musicians. Even first year cons are at the very least offering to comp people's badges, which, you know, some of the biggest furry cons in Australia didn't comp musicians' badges until, you know, people made a big stink about it a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So, okay, that's interesting to hear. And yeah, I guess there just always seems to be like the professionalism increases year on year. And I guess it's fascinating to see how it was like sort of before the bubble really burst, with conventions. All right, let's play another song. Let's play the Jackal app song, which I am completely forgetting the name of.
One Trick Pony.
That's it, One Trick Pony. Do you remember what you were thinking about when you were writing One Trick Pony?
That one's actually pretty funny. I got the track and I really liked it. And up to that point, I had definitely dwelled on some negative comments that said, you know, oh, the only reason MicTheMicrophone's even popular is because he's a vocalist. If he didn't have that, he wouldn't even be considered a musician, which is a really shitty thing to say about a vocalist, because a vocalist is just as much a musician as any. Like, I'm sorry, voice is an instrument. Sorry, I learned how to use that. But
that's just like saying, oh, you're a piano concerto player. If you couldn't play the piano, you wouldn't be a musician. Like, fuck off. They play the piano.
Right? Like no shit, I wouldn't be a musician. Like, that's what I do. But it was one of those things where I was just like, who gives a shit if I'm a one-trick pony? If I'm good at something, then I'm good at it, you know? And back then, I certainly wasn't as good as I thought I was, but I put so much energy and emotion into that song, and I just remembering being so incensed by those comments and just being like, you know what? No. You want to call me a one-trick pony? Fine. Doesn't mean I'm going to be going anywhere. You're still going to be seeing my face for a long time to come.
And it's the classic audience diss track and that is a well trodden path by many artists that is definitely you have to walk a fine line. Because you don't want to alienate people too much, but I think history has vindicated this song as being on the good side of the fine line. All right, so let's give this a spin. Jackal app befriends MicTheMicrophone, One Trick Pony.
And I mean, there should be no reason why I'm fucking this up. I have the lyrics right in front of me. I'm usually really good at singing.
No, let's just record it. Try and record it one more time.
Yeah, fine. You say I'm a hack, a one-trick pony, no acts to follow. All the talent that I've gained is not mine. It's all borrowed because I'm just a phony. When I step on the stage, it's like a dark age, a crossfade, and I hear ya all scream at me in rage. Oh, look at this, y'all, some halfway trying to step up his game, trying to pull himself up and rise above to greater acclaim. But fuck this fame shit, I'm doing this for no one but me. I'm like a rarity, a diamond and coal, I'm gonna make you see.
One-trick pony's only got one song, and one-trick pony plays it all night long. One-trick pony never tries something new. One-trick pony could be me or it could be you. One-trick pony's only got one song, and one-trick pony plays it all night long. One-trick pony never tries something new. One-trick pony could be me or it could be you.
You want this bar raised? I'll show you all the meaning of ferocity. When I step on the stage, there's no copying me, no stopping me. A one-trick pony, at least I know just what I'm good at. We're flailing on the ground just like a blank flame. Just stop that, just get back. There's more to us than meets the fucking eye. We're not some ragtag duo to disappoint. We will surprise everyone who tries to front and come at us. We've out had it, time to make the crowd go wild with this track. That's just our fucking talent.
One-trick pony's only got one song, and one-trick pony plays it all night long. One-trick pony never tries something new. One-trick pony could be me or it could be you. One-trick pony's only got one song, and one-trick pony plays it all night long. One-trick pony never tries something new. One-trick pony could be me or it could be you.
A talent made ours, there's no disgrace in sticking to our guns, we're good at it. Putting smiles across the faces of our fans and friends and family with our songs and our rhymes so sublime. So just stop treating it as if it's a crime. Cause in the long haul, it's not about rising up to the fame. It's the journey and tale, remember from where you came. And when you look back, you'll open your eyes and finally know me. Cause it doesn't matter no more, we're all just one-trick ponies.
One-trick ponies only got one song, and one-trick pony plays it all night long. One-trick pony never tries something new. One-trick pony could be me or it could be you. One-trick ponies only got one song, and one-trick pony plays it all night long. One-trick pony never tries something new. One-trick pony could be me or it could be you.
All right, and I think that's that track itself is, I think, a good place to start talking about our next questions, because really that song is a meta comment on how you were feeling about how some people in the fandom were treating you and treating your work, and your time in the fandom, probably to put it diplomatically, has been a bit bumpy. There's been drama, there's been egos, there's been big heads, there's been people saying shit on 4chan. This isn't really a drama podcast. In the year of our Lord 2021, I think most people really don't care about that drama. So I don't really want to relitigate old things. But maybe can you talk about a bit about horse fame, and I guess some of the things, some of the criticisms people had about you. That your head was too big, or that you were getting arrogant about yourself and your value as a performer and that sort of thing. And do you think, now looking back at it with hindsight, that any of those criticisms were valid? What have you learned from the whole thing?
So starting out, the concept of horse fame was something that a lot of us touted as kind of a badge of honor, because we were like, oh yeah, we're the big ones. And I don't feel that as a performer, knowing your worth is a bad thing. Was I insanely arrogant back in the day? Oh yeah. And I mean, I got checked by my friends a number of times. There were several stints in 2011, 2012 especially, where, I was called out for that arrogance. At one point, femfiction.net had as a banner across their website, MicTheMicrophone is a cancer and needs to be cut out of this fandom. So I mean, to say that I was put in my place is an understatement. But, to people who are like, oh, well, I mean, he's overstating his value as a performer. No, I'm not actually. When you know that people will come to this convention to see you perform, when you know that a convention with an attendance rate of 3,500 will have at least 2,000 of those attendees coming to your music show, be it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, or all 3 nights, then you know you are worth something. And to leverage that and to let conventions know, hey, if you want me, you're going to have to pay me, is not a bad thing, because your time is valuable as a performer, as an entertainer. And to say that you should be doing something for the love of the music is a grossly damaging thing to do. And I don't believe that, doing that in the start is a bad thing. I, for a long time, didn't charge for anything, convention performances, my music, nothing. But, as time went on, as I became an adult and as I invested more and more and more time into these projects, I realized, hey, I need a kickback if I'm going to keep doing this. I can't keep doing this out of pocket because I literally can't afford that. And so to know my worth as a musician, to know that I am worth something to these conventions, and to be like, I deserve to be paid for whatever it is I do, I don't think that's arrogance. I just think that's good business.
Yeah, and understandable. Ultimately, if you get too arrogant and they can't afford to pay you, then they can just not book you as well.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they are free to say no. And there were several conventions that were like, we can't afford that. And I'm like, okay, well, then that's okay. I wish you all the best. And, it's not like I was doing this out of spite. It's just, I had a limited amount of time to be able to do this. I knew that if I was going to be taking time off from my actual jobs, I would need to be compensated for this sort of thing. And so I would demand a stipend that I felt that my performance, my talent, and my time was worth.
Yeah, fair enough. And as well as that, there was also a fair bit of, I guess, politics and drama Because at one point you were the head of pre-listeners at Equestria Daily.
Oh, I was not the head.
Oh, you're not the head. Okay.
Contribute. No. I don't know who said I was the head.
So what the people said on 4chan isn't true. All right. So can you talk us through how that whole system worked, and then sort of what some of the criticisms were, and what the outcome was at the end of the day?
So it started off with a lot of the veteran musicians of the fandom at the time going through stuff on Equestria Daily when we would release a track. A lot of the times these tracks would be buried down beneath submissions that had come in well before ours. And because of that, there was no sort of like tiering system. You would just have X user submitted Y track, it goes up. There was no real sort of process to checking this. So you would have dozens upon dozens of tracks in batches. And for a lot of the musicians who would invest a shitload of time in this and who felt that their work was of a higher quality, they were like, and myself included, we were like, hey, we feel that we should be showcased a little bit more. We're a draw for this sort of thing. And arrogant. That's all I'm going to say. Fucking arrogant. But this was a consensus amongst a lot of us. And also you had tracks that were beyond amateurish. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, you were a fucking amateur once too. Damn right I was. And if I submitted some of my shit, I wouldn't have wanted it up either. Like, I totally understand some people being upset about, what we put into place. And quite frankly, I regret doing it. I regret, pushing that with my friends. I regret asking people to put this into place and for setting this as a standard, because for a lot of tracks, there should have been some scrutiny, but I feel like the whole judge and jury process that we had was excessive.
Yeah, and I guess it's crazy hearing that now, given what Equestria Daily has become for musicians. But do you think it was a lot of it was an artifact of like there was no template, you were making it up as you went along, and I guess you sort of you bring all the good and bad with that process because you really have no idea what you're doing?
Pretty much. I mean, for a lot of us, this was our first stroke with any sort of success, any sort of notoriety, any sort of administrative planning positions, Like, you name it, none of us had ever done this before. So what we felt was a suitable means of, kind of parsing the amount of content that was coming through was to create kind of a, I almost want to call it like an American Idol judge style system where we would rate the track, be like, does this fit what we would determine to be a quote unquote MLP track? And of course, at the end of the day, what determines something as a piece of fandom music is, completely up to the fucking user. And again, that's why I come back to, we were fucking arrogant with that shit, We felt that you needed to do a great deal more work to establish that a track was related to pony music and that some weird composition of music that had no, front-facing association to the content shouldn't be counted as a track, which again, that's wholly arrogant, which is why so many of us push to have like an instrumental section for that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so that at least content that was considered to be of a different standard could be sectioned off from content that was considered to be of a lower standard. And again, I come back to arrogant because the way that I'm talking about that isn't wholly fair to the music that was presented. Because again, who are we to decide what was considered a track of a higher quality versus a track of a lower quality? And granted, we did judge on a number of things from mixing to composition, to just overall listenability. We had some songs that we talk about to this day, like and coolness and days, which was, I can't even remember who made that song, but it was a song that we looked at and we're like, this is silly. No way. This is, repetitive. This is repetitive sampling over the same D&B loop for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So for us, we thought we were doing something to help with the scene a little bit. And perhaps in some ways there was a bit of an improvement made because it made people put in a little bit more effort. But overall, there was a great deal of arrogance behind a lot of the musicians that helped to form that, because we did believe that there was a certain standard that needed to be met for a song to be considered quote unquote pony.
Yeah,
And that was
and
just
it's
the
still
territory that came with learning this shit.
it's still a philosophical question that any curator of fandom content has to grapple with today. Like,
Yep.
in many ways, we are still asking the same questions today. Our answers, I think, are a bit more nuanced. And I think as a fandom, we've come a long way in the way that we appreciate both quality and relation to Pony. But yeah, I do think, I guess the original sin of focusing possibly too much on Pony, or any sort of music creation being clicky. I personally genuinely do think that our fandom is so broad and it's not commercial, and for that reason, no matter what system you have, there's going to be issues. I think we have a better system now, but today's system isn't perfect either. And
I mean, at the end of the day, we wanted something of a higher caliber, because as we were pushed by our audiences and by each other to become better, we wanted to see our peers and our craft be better. And so to that end, we wanted the music posted to EQD to represent the best of the best. We wanted that to be a showcasing of people who had an insane level of talent. And it's not like we were out here like, hey, our tracks get exclusive posts, because that was not the case. And there were a number of times where we had to urge Seth to be like, nah, dude, just throw this in the mix with the others, don't give this an exclusive post.
And it's interesting searching for you on Equestria Daily these days. I'm surprised at how few of your tracks actually did get posted. Was that like a deliberate thing?
No, I just, I never really needed to submit to EQD. And if I did, they were mostly listed in batch tracks. A lot of my early stuff especially didn't get posted just because, it was all tracks that I had conceived well before I even knew EQD was a thing. And so I felt like submitting them, well after the fact wasn't really necessary. And so going forward, I did have a couple of my newer tracks posted there, but EQD was kind of one of those things where I was like, eh.
Yeah. And God, EQD is not what it used to be for musicians. And I think, I think it's a good lesson in not really paying attention too much to EQD. I think so much as someone who arrived in the fandom well after everything had died, so much of early fandom music drama just seems to be about caring way too much about the opinion of Equestria Daily. And I know that Equestria Daily is important because it drove a lot of traffic to your site, but also you're making music about tiny horses, and at the end of the day, you need to be making that for yourself, because
I come back to this again. Arrogance.
Yeah.
We were all a bunch of shitty kids, shitty young adults who had, in most cases, never had a brush with success. So much so that when we did get that, it went straight to our heads. And I was probably the most egregious offender, if not at least one of the most egregious offenders of that. And I'm wholeheartly aware of that. And I worked very tirelessly to try and fix that, from late 2012, 2013 onward, because that's not who I wanted to be, and that's why going forward at, performances, I would willingly slash my performance time. I would volunteer my time and make sure that everybody else got to go well before me, or at least got the window of time that they wanted to perform within. Because, after that point, I just started to realize the notoriety didn't really mean shit if you weren't doing something valuable with it, if you weren't doing something worthwhile to help build people up. So I was like, fuck it. No, I don't give a shit. So I would just try to push everybody else up and, over the wall, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think it shows. You did a really good post on your Tumblr after you played at EQLA that I think really summarizes sort of your growth as a person, also as a musician, but mostly just as not being a shit cunt. And I mean,
we're all shit cunts at one point or another.
Oh, absolutely. Especially at that age.
Oh, of course. You're still figuring the world out. You think you're hot shit. You think you're invincible. I mean, God, the amount of ego that went to my head was astronomical. And again, I still work very hard to keep that in check because there are still tinges of that show through with my streaming. But I've also come to realize that ego is a necessity in these kinds of industries, and it's not necessarily about snuffing that ego out. It's about knowing when to use it to keep yourself safe and when to dial it back.
Yeah, exactly. I know I might put that post in the link of the description of the video because I personally think it summarizes sort of where things have gone better than I can represent on this show. So you did mention earlier that that period was one of your regrets. Bolt the Super Pony asks, do you have any other regrets about your time in Pony, or things that you would have done differently?
Not really. I fell out of Pony music for a good reason, to be honest. There was a lot of emphasis on rat beef at the time. Yelling at cats was making an especially strong presence, and quite frankly, the heinous and excessive toxicity. I was like, bro, what the fuck? This tiny horse shit. Come on. So I was not about that. A lot of musicians at the time too were actually embracing that kind of shit and working to kind of propel that. And I was like, I don't want any part of that. So
yeah, so that was sort of like late 2013, 2014, right?
Yeah. Yep. About that.
Yeah, so that was like you'd already to some extent started winding down in the fandom by then. But 2014, I'm fairly confident marks the last Pony track that you've released, right?
Something like that. I think that was No Chance, if I recall correctly.
Yes, No Chance with DB Pony.
Yep, that was a great track.
Yeah. And one of the tracks that you've recommended we play on the show is Big Horse, which
yes,
was that
the greatest song of my career?
Maybe, actually, you know what? We'll listen to Big Horse, and then I'll ask the questions about it, because I don't think asking...
Please do. I would love to listen to Big Horse.
I don't think asking the questions before we listen to Big Horse is going to tell the audience anything productive, because I'd never heard of this song before. So let's give this a spin. DB Horse and Mike... No, DB Pony and Mike. DB is very small. Big Horse. Where is the horse, Mike? Where is the horse?
To this day, that is a question that I ask myself all the time. I do not know, and I'm still searching.
Yeah. So that I guess that's another quite meta track in that compared to a lot of your work, it is a bit of a piss take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that a response to you just saying, like, this is just getting too serious, just like everyone fuck off, we're making music about tiny horses?
It really started as kind of like a joke track, and there really wasn't any commentary beyond it. it was a track that we wanted to make as a gag. And it was very, at least for me, it was very heavily inspired by that Harry Partridge animation, Nicolas Cage Wants Cake. If you've ever seen that.
No.
It is this. Oh, it's based on this old Nicolas Cage movie, and basically his wife is eating this slice of chocolate cake, and it's just a remix of that scene, and it's an absolute shit post. I'll link it to you so you can watch it later. But for me, Big Horse was very heavily inspired by that, and I really just wanted to make something silly. Again, one of the things that I started out with doing music in general was just I wanted to make people laugh. I thought parody tracks were fantastic, so Big Horse was just a shit post of a song where DB's like, I want to make a song about Big Horse. Can you record Big Horse? I'm like, I will record the best Big Horse. So, it just kind of spawned from there. It just spawned from that. And for me, it is one of the few songs of mine that I will play on stream because I think it is a shit post and a masterpiece. And I have nothing but fond memories of it. And I really do feel like that's what your music should be. And that's probably why I have such an affinity for it.
Yeah, and fair enough. Like, I get it's a real return to your roots as well. Yeah. And so, 2014, the last Pony track you release is in July of 2014. At that point, I think you were a Twitch affiliate by then, yeah?
Affiliates did not exist back then. You were
right,
either
okay.
partnered or you were not. So Twitch had a very basic infrastructure back then. And up to that point, I had actually heavily resisted moving to Twitch until December of 2013 when I finally caved and made an account. And a lot of that had to deal with the fact that Justin TV and Twitch had the worst goddamn UI in existence. I mean, if you wanted a labyrinth-style puzzle to activate your account, that was the place to go.
Yep.
And because of that, I heavily resisted moving over. I did most of my streams on livestream.com. Actually got it was either 5 or 6 accounts fully banned from livestream.com. For streaming. Yeah, I know, right? Fucking 6 accounts. Banned for streaming copyrighted material, which was an infringement on their TOS. Which I did not know. Actually, at one point when one of the new MLP episodes dropped early on iTunes, I had bought it and was streaming it on loop while I went to bed, and I woke up to find my stream had been reported and subsequently banned. And it wasn't like a big loss. I had such a robust community at the time that getting a new verified channel on livestream.com was, super duper easy. But when I finally moved over to Twitch in 2014, I had done so with the intent of kind of taking streaming a little bit more seriously. A couple of my friends were like, your stuff is fairly entertaining and, Twitch can help supplement your income. And I was like, yeah. So I decided to give it a go, and I ended up taking to it like a fish to water, got super into speedrunning, and I guess we'll talk about that in a minute if we get to it.
Yeah. I do want to talk about your time after Pony. But so I guess that was the time where you sort of put your boots on the shelf and more or less left the fandom. Did you do a I'm leaving the fandom post? I couldn't.
No.
I couldn't find one, and I'm like, am I just is the Twitter search function broken or?
Nah. So I'm gonna be real with you. That's some overly dramatic shit. And as far as quote unquote leaving the fandom goes, I don't think you ever really leave a fandom. No matter what you do, passions in life will always find a way to resurface and become a part of you yet again. And Pony is no different than that. I mean, we're coming up on 10 years of some of the tracks that I had a part in, very, very early on. And because of that, I'm getting a lot of newer viewership and people going, "Oh my God, you're still alive!" And those passions have come back to be a part of me once again in that form. And so, I didn't feel the need to make some big dramatic, I'm leaving the fandom, because I didn't leave the fucking fandom. I stopped producing content for it. That doesn't mean I stopped indulging in the show. That didn't mean I stopped enjoying the content. It didn't mean that I'm sorry, I just totally fucked up that whole sentence. But let me just try that again there. But it didn't mean that. Yeah, no, just rewind there. We're gonna pretend that one didn't happen. But it didn't mean that I was enjoying the content any less. It didn't mean that I hated MLP, and it didn't mean that I had some grotesque falling out with the fandom, the community, anything like that. It just meant that I had exhausted the passion that I had for MLP and the music side of things, and I wanted to go where my passions were leading me next, which was, Twitch and gaming and streaming. And to this day, I still find myself doodling tracks. I mean, I did a freestyle over a track that Silva dropped recently, which was super fun. And that was one of the first things that I had completed in like 5 years, and I had a fucking blast writing that. I've written a couple of tracks to different Fortnite beats, which I thought were super fun. And I mean, like, these are nothing super extravagant, but it's like I never stopped doing music. I just stopped putting it out, and I stopped focusing on it as a main source of content creation, because at the end of the day, I said this at the beginning of my tenure as a musician, I do this for fun. I'm not in this to be the greatest rapper of all time or to even be a long-standing musician past MLP. I do this because it's fun. And I had a great deal of fun doing what I did. I made some incredible friends that I keep in touch with to this day. I made some memories that I still think about every single moment. And I learned some very valuable experiences that I keep close to me to this day. And it's something that I carry with me. And, I don't believe that you ever truly leave the fandom, but to grow beyond something and to realize that your time with something is done isn't a bad thing. And, to take a passive role in something that you used to be incredibly active in doesn't indicate, oh, you're leaving. It just means, I just have other passions now. I had to move the furniture aside to accommodate some new stuff.
Yeah, and just I guess to settle a long-standing question, Spook Forever asks, are there any new songs planned coming soon or in the future?
Coming soon? No. In the future? Possibly. I mean, I have a number of tracks and concepts on my computer that I have dicked around with. I have 3 different text documents that are just rap lyrics, and anytime I come up with a lyric that I'm like, that's kind of punchy, I fucking write it down in the document. And if I find a song where I feel like it's suited for, I'll throw it in. I still work on music, but it's just not my main focus. I do streaming as a full-time job. I'm pursuing voice acting on the side, and I'm juggling, a social life, an adult life, and a professional life all in the same set of hands. I'm one guy. So if I can ever find the time to come back to music and focus on it more intently, I would love to do that. I've talked with Jessa a few times and told her, hey, if you ever want me to sit down and work on like a Naoki-styled Eurobeat rap track, I'm always down to do that. And should our schedules ever sync up so that we can do that, it's going to be fucking amazing. It's just something that at this moment in time is not my major focus. And so if I can put out things here and there, I absolutely will. But until such a time comes as that, I'm just focusing on, the things that keep me alive, that keep the roof over my head, that keep food on the table. Yeah. And, that's just where I'm at.
And that's completely fair. And I think one of the things, another question Bolt has, is one of the things that you have moved on to since leaving MLP is Furry. Or maybe you didn't move on to MLP from Furry. Maybe you were a Furry beforehand. I've got no idea.
I was a Furry beforehand.
Hey.
I was actually just about to say that. So I started in that, and I didn't do shit in Furry. I was just some nobody who attended local meetups and, fucked around there. And it was fun, I went to Apple Hill with that. I met some cool people through the local groups. But, I didn't do anything, long-lasting in Furry or even impactful or meaningful in Furry to any degree. So it was just something that when I found MLP, I was like, hey, whatever, new character.
But you have attended at least some Furry conventions, because I actually
I've attended several.
The one American convention I attended, I did get your business card at Further Confusion in 2019.
Yeah, FC's my shit.
I could do a whole episode on my one night. I did one night at FC, and that one night accounts for more than half of the stories I have about my entire America trip in 2019.
FC is the best fucking convention. I've been going to that shit for a number of years. And I tell people, like, if you go to any furry con, if you are in the California area, you hit Further Confusion, because the area is great, the people are great. I mean, for fuck's sake, the 4th floor, for people who don't know, by the way, it's called the party floor. And the party floor has saran wrap on the carpeted hallway, edge to edge, in every room on the floor. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe, too, is a party. And it is the sickest fucking experience.
I DJ'd for 8 hours on Sunday night in the party floor. And just when I thought the party was winding down, they're just like, no, the party's not winding down. We're just getting out the silent disco headphones. Yeah, and the debauchery of that convention. Oh, it's everything I love about Furry. Very different vibe to a pony convention, but you know, we all know that. We all know what furries are about. So you did speak earlier about streaming, and I want to talk about sort of what you've been up to since you sort of winded down your involvement with Pony. What's the streaming life been like? You know, you've been doing it now for 7 years. Maybe not full time for 7 years, but yeah.
No, full time for 7 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and I'm gonna toot my own horn for a fucking second here and say I'm fucking shit up. I'm doing really well. I am actually a big fucking figure. I got signed to a really big talent agency just a week ago, Tyrus Talent, and they've been helping to manage me, and they've been nothing short of incredible. In fact, my talent manager is fucking hilarious. When we were in a call working things out, one of the other ladies in there was just like, so tell us about your content. How did you get started? And I'm like, okay, well, don't laugh. I started doing music in the MLP fandom. And this other girl who would become my talent manager, she pipes up like, oh, finally, I don't got to be quiet about this. Listen, this is Mike the fucking microphone. This is OG Brony royalty. And I started losing it. I mean, she was fucking hilarious. Her name is Calist, and she's gonna be my talent manager. So I mean, to have somebody who is enthusiastic for you is fucking great. I'm also sponsored with Blue Microphones. I work very closely with them. They give me free product. I have a discount code. So to be Mike the Microphone sponsored by Blue Microphones, pretty fucking sick flex.
All right. Come on. I normally do shills at the end of the show, but shill yourself right now. Tell us where people can find you.
All right, let me tell you my shills. I'm sponsored by Elgato Gaming. I'm sponsored by Blue Microphones. I'm sponsored by Advanced GG, which is a major energy supplement gaming drink company. They picked me up over a year and a half ago, and I mean, since then, I'm averaging 250 to 300 viewers per stream. My sub count, paying sub count, by the way, which is a different thing from followers. My sub count hit an all-time high of 4,000 recently. So I mean, I'm doing very well for myself on that front. I recently did a full music show featuring the likeness of Rob Gasser, Living Tombstone, Odyssey Eurobeat, called Legapalooza for my birthday last August, which was a massive hit. Garnica the Panda actually performed for the first time under their new alias, Hush Puppy Music, and they were fucking sick, dude. They were so good.
Oh, that's
like
Garnica.
Absolutely one of the best fucking performances I've ever seen. But like Rob Clems, Rob Gasser, Odyssey Eurobeat, Lav, Hush Puppy, Tomb, all of them fucking destroyed it. And I mean, since then, I've been setting a new standard for streaming. I'm the person people come to when they want better audio and visual fidelity on their stream. I know the technical ins and outs. And so to all the people who called me a one-trick pony back in the day, guess what? I'm tech savvy and music savvy, so suck on my dick.
And also, I think quite early to jump on the VTuber train as well. With your furry character, which is very cute. I love the bullet.
Yeah. Before the whole VTubing craze actually kicked in, furries were just like, bro, I just want my persona as a face rig. Like full stop. For the longest time streaming on Twitch, one of the big things that I suffer from is that whereas some people have resting bitch face, I have resting sad face. And so for me, even though I could be fucking chipper as all hell, you know, my resting gamer face just makes me look tired, depressed, just upset at the world. I mean, like, I look like somebody who just got told their dog died and they are across the ocean and can't be there to tend to it. And I would get people just being like, oh, why do you look so sad? Why do you look so sad? And I'm like, I'm not sad. I'm actually in a really good mood. So for me, it was just more like I wanted to get something that I could use to substitute my face cam. And so I sought out an artist who could produce my persona into a rig, and they ended up doing that. And then I just substituted it in the rig, and I ended up loving it. Then when the VTubing craze kicked in, I was like, oh, this is actually an established thing? Holy shit, okay. So I just kind of naturally switched gears into that niche. My girlfriend and I sat down for like 2.5 weeks, and we learned the ins and outs of how to build our own our own rig, and now we do all of our own rig art. We make different costumes for the character. I think I have something like 35 different variations of the rig now, and we produce a new one for each event or each game that we do that's of a substantial length. And since then, like I said, I've just been working hard to keep myself established, to be the guy that people come to for good reason, because I, again, to toot my own horn and kind of flex that ego, I know my shit. I didn't get here by twiddling my thumbs and pretending. I worked my ass off. I spent countless hours, countless days studying, learning, fucking up. I mean, for God's sakes, there was a point in time where during my 4th, 5th year of streaming full time, I was averaging 20 people. I had a sub count that was 130, and that's not enough to pay the bills, let me tell you that much. And so I've had my ups and downs in this. I know what it's like to experience success, failure. I've been all over that spectrum. But through that, just like I did with music, I took what failures I had from that. I took, what harsh lessons I had to learn from that, and I applied them across the board so that I could become a better version of myself. And, whether or not you think I'm arrogant for being confident in my work, whether or not you think I'm arrogant for having a sense of self-value with what I do, I'm gonna go ahead and be arrogant. I don't give a shit what people think of me at this point, because I'm 30 years old.
People can decide for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 30 years old. I've spent a lifetime dwelling on what other people think and letting that define me, and I've gotten to a point where, guess what, I've gotten mine. I've busted my ass, and I finally achieved a level of success that I am fairly happy with, and that I can continue to grow off of, and I can continue to establish myself as an authority in these fields. And because of that, I have no interest in people who aren't here to see me succeed. I have no interest in people who are out here to talk shit. If you want to talk shit about me, have fun. I hope you're succeeding in your own endeavors, because I'm going to be out here succeeding in mine. And if you want to be a part of that happiness, and if you want to be a part of that joy, I am more than willing to be like, come on in, have a fun fucking time. We'll tell a bunch of dick jokes, and I'll talk about the chussy, which you don't know what the chussy is, but don't look it up. Don't look it up. Or do look it up. I'm not your mom. Look up the chussy. Point being,
are we going to tell the viewers to look the chussy up on incognito mode?
I would highly recommend it. Is
okay.
All I'm going to say.
So just a heads up, viewers, incognito mode.
Yeah, just look up Food Club knows what they're doing. Because they I'm just gonna sum it up. They take a chicken breast, they cut a line down it. It looks like a pussy. We call it the chussy. So we talk about, and they take like a jalapeno and they like slide it in there, grinding on it. Like, they know what they're doing. So the point being, like, I'm here to make people laugh. I'm here to enjoy myself. I'm past the point of being the big guy or the little guy or anywhere in between. I perpetually think I am a small fucking fish, because in the grand scheme of things, I'm a small fucking fish. But I also know what I'm good at, and if I can help people by imparting the knowledge that I've gained these past several years to help them not endure the fuck ups that I did, then that's what I'm going to continue to do. And if that means I got to be a little bit arrogant and I got to keep letting people know that I do believe that I am hot shit for my knowledge, then I'm going to keep doing that. Because at the end of the day, I know what I want, and I know the kind of life that I want to lead, and I know the kind of person I want to be. So that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah,
If you don't like that, then you can either get on board or get the fuck out the way.
And I think that's a good place to start asking some of the big retrospective questions for the end of the show. Because we've now seen Mike from their birth and their growth, and we're now seeing Mike. So let's put our big hats on of the past 10 years of involvement with the internet more broadly, and also the fandom. Do you have any favorite artists that you've collabed with over the years?
Oh man, Tombstone is never unpleasant to work with. I mean, the man is just jolliness incarnate. I mean, even when you're just fucking around playing games with him, he is stellar. I actually had the privilege of auditioning for the game In Sound Mind that recently released, featuring a full OST by Tomb. And I actually got down to the final two, and they ended up going with Sam Hafton, rightfully so, because Sam fucking killed it in that performance. But again, working with Tomb has never been an unpleasant experience. Lav, who goes by Thistle UK now, she has remained a stalwart friend from, you know, start to finish ever since the day I met her. And she and I go back and forth on tech shit. You know, she's helped me to really realize some of the visions that I had with my stream. And in turn, you know, I've also helped to kind of teach her a lot about streaming too. And now as she branches out into streaming, you know, we've maintained that bond. And, you know, she's just always great to work with. And I mean, you know, Silva, Jessa, everybody that I've worked with in the past. I mean, like, I can't say I've had an unpleasant collaborative experience. And if I have, it's mostly in the realm of streaming. So, you know, whatever to that.
Yeah. And just a question on collabs. Nelfi asks, how did you get involved with everyone else in 2010? And can you just explain what the 2010 concept is?
Oh, man. So 2010 was just kind of a fun concept that Lulz pitched where one of the songs that we wanted to do was a big collaborative piece because at the time Beyond Her Tomb was kind of the big meme piece because you had 4 people who all helped contribute to that track. You had Tomb, who did the remix of Glaze's original track. You had me doing primary rap vocals, and then you had Lulz helping with mixing and lyric writing. And so because of that, he was just like, what if we just created, you know, the big boy band kind of shit? And so you know, 2010 was kind of the big 4 for us. You know, that was our little band where we would create music, and Obsolete was pretty much the only track that we did under that banner.
Yeah.
And it was a fun one. It was a fun one. I feel like we had bigger ambitions for it at one point. But you know, it being what it was and us being as busy as we were, you know, it was unfortunately kind of ill-fated to be anything more than kind of just a 1 or 2 off thing, since everybody else just had way too much on their plate to dedicate to it.
And you're definitely in the dubstep. It's in the long dubstep tradition of a supergroup forming, releasing a single song or a single album, and then nobody ever hearing from them again.
Oh yeah,
Destroyed
wouldn't have it any other way. Got to go with tradition, right?
If it's good enough for Destroyed,
it's good enough for them. It's good enough for us.
Yeah.
We're worth it. Damn it.
Okay, that's funny to hear. Do you have a proudest accomplishment? And as well, Great Pumpkin Chuckin asks, do you have a favorite song you've done?
Proudest accomplishment is probably just performing at that first BronyCon. As much as I say that it is my worst performance, that also was a huge milestone for me because it kind of set the bar for what I didn't want, but also set the bar for what I did want out of the experience, you know? So in that, you know, just making it there and being able to come back the next year and give a performance that I could be satisfied with, getting to fly out to all these cons, you know, to do Buck, to do MLP, MSP, you know, it was, I would say that my proudest accomplishment is definitely that first BronyCon because it did help to give me kind of a scope for what I wanted out of my career and out of my life as a content creator.
And favorite track?
And then favorite track, fuck. I'm one of those dudes who hates his own music, so... No, but for real, though, I've kind of softened to that over the years and kind of gotten over that whole dislike of my own stuff. And I would really have to say that as much as I claim to hate it, One Trick Pony definitely still resonates with me in a huge way. And if not that, then Nightmare Night. Because again, those were tracks that weren't done with any sort of critical thinking. It was all just raw emotion across the board, with Nightmare Night being fun and festive and just me wanting to create something a little bit more atmospheric and creepy and themed to the holiday, and then One Trick Pony just being raw, unfiltered emotion, just me being willing to say what it is I wanted to say and be like, yeah, if I am, so fucking what? Do something about it.
Yeah. And Pumpkin Chuckin asks as well, have you ever thought about doing any remasters or re-records of those early tracks?
I've thought about it a couple times. I've definitely thought about rewriting these tracks and making them quote unquote better, but I also know that there is a certain charm to the infantile nature of these songs. You know, there's a level of just magic that you can't really recreate no matter how hard you try. I have done multiple revisions of Nightmare Night, tried to perform them, and no matter how hard I try to make the song more technically impressive as far as my lyrics go, none of them hit as hard as the originals, regardless of how shoddy I think they are. And that's okay. You know, I feel like if I am to do anything with them, a remaster is definitely in line. You know, record the lyrics, maybe make them a bit punchier, but don't change the delivery too much, you know? And I feel like that would be worth it in the long run. But as far as like trying to rewrite these, every time I humor the thought, I come back to, but could you capture that magic a second time? And the answer is probably no, because you know the raw enthusiasm just isn't there. And I mean, it was a different time. You know, you didn't think about what people were gonna think, as you were like, "Fuck it, this is fun."
Yeah, I 100% agree with about capturing the magic. Like remasters are fine if you're, you know, just tightening up to 2021 standards, but
yeah,
there is something about that, and there was something in the water that
it really was
still really informs the music scene in this fandom to this very day. All right, 2 questions left. First one is, where do you think you'd be without your involvement in the pony fandom, both as a musician and as a person?
I wouldn't be here. Full stop. Like, I would not be doing what I'm doing now, and I probably wouldn't have dabbled in content creation because I would not have had the drive or confidence to do it. What the Brony fandom did for me throughout the course of my tenure there was it gave me the confidence to realize not only my self-worth, but to realize that I did have a subset of talent that could be applied elsewhere, you know? Like, whereas I feel like a lot of musicians really got into their own heads and started to overanalyze their music going, I don't want to be the pony guy for the rest of my life. I think for me, I just looked at it as these are transferable skills, you know, like lyric writing and musical inclination doesn't go away and isn't any less applicable in my current job, you know, and learning how to run music shows has curtailed into me running charity events through streaming. I mean, to date, I've raised well over, I would wager about $60,000 for charity just on my own, and in collaborative efforts, well over $150,000. You know, I've taken these skills that I've acquired through doing convention performances, through doing online content creation, and I have applied them to everything that I do now. And so, you know, for me, if I didn't have that stroke with MLP, if I wasn't fortunate enough to stumble upon it when I did and to get into the content creation of things when I did, I would not be the person that I am, and I sure as shit wouldn't be sitting here. And if anything, I would probably still be working dead-end jobs being relatively miserable.
Yeah. Wow. That's all I have to say to that, because, yeah, wow. Yeah, my gosh. All right, final question. Question that I like to ask all of my guests is who they would recommend I try and get in contact with next to interview on the show to talk about their time in Pony. And Jessa actually recommended you last time, so...
so she gave me the tag, huh?
Yeah, she did. And good tag. This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm glad, honestly. Like, this has been a blast and a half, and you know, I don't get to reminisce very much about this, so this was really nice being able to kind of walk down this memory lane.
You and so many other people. That's the whole reason I'm doing this project, is because we're going to lose so much of this history if it doesn't get recorded.
And you know what? Being able to, that's part of the reason why I was so excited about Legapalooza when I did that on stream, because that was getting all the friends that I used to fuck around with behind stage together just to do some fucking performance shit. And it was fun. And I want to do another one in Christmas, and I'm going to be hitting them up again so we can do like a big charity drive. I want to do something for the Trevor Project. So, I mean, you know, it's just a lot of us, I feel, haven't really had the time to reconnect with those roots. And so this has been both humbling and just very invaluable, because it's kind of, I don't know, listening to One Trick Pony again for the first time in a long time, I'm like, damn, that's an energy I kind of missed. I should get that back. Need to get that fire under me again. And so, you know, it has been absolutely unreal levels of pleasant. Like, this has been absolutely fantastic. And if I could pick people to bring on next, I think my top 3, I mean, if you haven't already done Tomb or reached out to Tomb, my top 3 aside from him would be Silvahound, Garnica the Panda, aka Hush Puppy Music, or Thistle UK, aka Lav. And all 3 of them are invaluable sources of fucking information about the entirety of these experiences. I mean, Silva was there from day one as a firmly established musician, Garnica for his time in the Pony fandom and for what performances he did. While not an exclusive and more upfront Pony musician, the guy has a level of energy that none of us could match and none of us would ever want to do without at a convention. And Lav has been a staple since 2011, 2012. I mean, she's been one of the premier UK musicians and she is a wealth of knowledge and information, both musical, technical, and historical on this stuff. So I mean, her especially. If you want my forefront pick, it's her.
Yeah, cool. And I think other than Garnica, I had all of them on the wish list. So that has just reinforced that we're going to need to get into contact with all of these artists.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. I'm so excited. And I think on that note of friendship and long time connection, that's a fabulous place to leave the show. If people, for the love of God, don't already follow you, where can they find you online?
So you actually laugh your head off if you want, but no joke, you can actually find me at buttslutsgonuts.com. That redirects to my Twitch channel. I have full functional URL. You can try it right now.
And also,
but if you want
www.mike.sexy as well.
Yes, Mike.sexy is also one of the ones that I use. That's kind of my main one. We also have chussy.club and furry.fuckmyass.today. Which are all fantastic, but for real, you can find me at twitch.tv/Mike_feedback. And I stream there pretty frequently. Like I said, I'm an authority on Twitch as a quality expert. You know, I'm the guy you come to when you want to make your audio quality better, your video quality better, when you want to upgrade your capture card, your upscaling equipment. I mean, I am that wealth of knowledge.
Very, very good. All right, and thank you to all of the audience for listening to this what's been another over an hour and a half episode, 2 weeks in a row. This is what happens when you talk to the 2011 people. My God.
But you know what? There's so much to talk about.
Oh,
It's
exactly.
So I was sitting here like, is this really going to go for 2 hours? And I'm like, oh shit, it went for 2 hours.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen again, so we're going to record the definitive interview. And if someone wants to do better in the future, like, absolutely go for it, but I don't think anyone will. So we'll see about that. So yeah, thank you so much for keeping tuned into the show. This has been episode 7. If you enjoyed this, there's heaps of episodes beforehand, and we're slowly getting better and better and better at doing this. I'm starting to get into a bit of a rhythm now. So yeah, you can find me at RockFoxDJ on Twitter and all the other places. And if you're listening to this show in podcast, you can see the video on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can listen to the podcast. And it's in all the places. All the links are in the places. You know what they mean. And if you'd like to suggest guests for me to interview, please get in touch with me on Twitter. I have a very big backlog. There's a lot of musicians to work for, so it might not happen for a while. But I write every single suggestion down in my document, so I'm going to try get to them all at some point over the next year or 2 years or however the fuck long it takes. So yeah, this is RockFox signing out. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Brony Music History, and good morning.
Good morning.